welcome to Combat Vet Vision. This is a platform for our veterans, myself, to be able to talk about things that really affect our lives, affect other people's lives, and our veterans get a chance to come on here. Our sponsors, supporters, and volunteers also get to tell their scope of why they're involved, what they're doing, and doing some really incredible things. And my guest this week is another 3rd Battalion, 5th Marine brother of mine, fellow corpsman, Otis Miller, all the way from Hawaii. And he'll be talking about his story, his evolution into the military, and why he transitioned out and what he's doing now to still be involved as a service to this country and to our veterans in the Hawaii area. And then we'll have JB on deck too. JB, my co-host, world-renowned chef JB Brown for JB's Kitchen in his segment as well. So looking forward to all that. Otis, how you doing, brother? Hey, thanks a lot for popping on. I know.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Hey, it's great to see you. I know we had a chance to talk this last week. You popped on real quick and said a couple of things, and it was great to have you come on. And hey, talk about your history, brother. Let's talk about 3-5. Let's talk about some cool things, being a corpsman and now getting out and being a, director of physical health in Hawaii. So go ahead, brother. Let's talk about all that.
Yeah, man. It was like a pretty easy transition, but my time as a corpsman pretty much helped out with the transition doing here. That time span fit me well. I think I was groomed to kind of be in the military a little bit. My dad wasn't. He was never in the military, but he kind of ran the house like he was. So So, I had a lot of chores, had certain days to do them, certain times to do them, stuff like that. So, when I got to boot camp, things being so structured was real easy for me. A lot of guys are crying, freaking out. But for me, like it was like another day, just you got to do things when you got to do them. So, boot camp was pretty easy for me. I had a good time. And then after that, because, actually me being a corpsman, I got the recruiter told me that he said, you're going to be wearing your whites all the time and you'll be in the hospital 9 to 5. It's like a regular job. You'll forget you're in the military. And that's how he sold me. And I was like, okay, great. But then I ended up getting 3-5 orders and I spent half my time in the dirt. And it was nothing like he said. Like,
you thought you were just going to be a hospital corpsman, but you were a green side corpsman. So that green side is totally a different element. Yes.
Yeah, completely different. It was good stuff though, man. I'm actually glad it worked out the way it did because I get complacent real easy. So if I actually ended up in the hospital 9 to 5 all the time, it probably would have been a little different for my personality. But it worked out really well for me. I wouldn't trade those years for literally anything. I met some good people who were still friends today. We're in our group chat, and even the Marines I was stationed with, I still talk to them now. So it worked out the way it was supposed to, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, being part of 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines and going into combat the way that we did and coming back, the brotherhood that kind of created is definitely such a strong element of how we still stay communication today on our 3-5 corpsman group, as well as, so many other groups and talk about that. I mean, you got out, what was your driving force to kind of get out and move forward in the direction that you went? And obviously you went to college, you got your MS and doing a whole bunch of cool stuff. So talk about some of that transition piece and, maybe some of the struggles of making those decisions to really get yourself aligned with the path that you're on now.
Well, like I was saying, the transition wasn't really that hard of a decision to make. I didn't want to get out, but my body was a little beat up at the time, and I wanted to stay greenside. But if I was going to stay greenside, I needed an able body, and I didn't have it. Both my knees were pretty much shot. One rotator cuff was down. There's no way I can keep hiking and things like that all those miles, and there's no way I do all that, the physical fitness aspect of it with a beat up body. So I made the decision to get out pretty easy. With a heavy heart, I did it though, but because my intent was to retire, but all things don't work out the way you want them to sometimes. So I had to just take the bullet and kind of move on. But I still wanted to stay in the medical field. So when I got out, I started to work at Scripps for a while, the hospital, So I was doing like EMT work and things like that. But some of that stuff seemed a little bit too real, in all honesty. It, some of the calls, yeah, man, it took me back to Iraq a couple of times. Gave me some bad memories. So I ended up transitioning from that to dermatology, if you can if you can believe it. Yeah, they gave me the most. I kept complaining about, like, no, the calls, and they're like, well, it's EMT work. What do you expect? And I was like, yeah, but it's taking me to a bad place. And, like, you try to explain that to people and they don't really understand it. So I guess, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So after a while, they're just like, well, let me just move this guy. So they moved me to the most docile place you could think of, and they moved me to skin, to dermatology, looking at moles all day. So um, yeah, so I tried that for a while, but then it got kind of like, kind of boring. So then I moved on from that. And then I started applying at the bases, because that's where I feel more comfortable. You know, in I think some people, if you're not in the military, probably don't understand. They probably wouldn't get it, but you know, I don't have to watch my mouth necessarily as much. Like there's a element of that where, like, where I don't have to say too much. You know, I don't have to, like, be professional all the time, because I'm surrounded by a bunch of people who say the most foulest things in the world. So working in the bases, it's more comfortable here. It's real comfortable. So they don't make me feel like I have to, like, be with my suit and tie and buttoned up all the way all the time. Sometimes I like the ease of being here, and I know their environment, and I can relate to these guys real easy. I used to be them at one point. So a lot of the young guys that come in, and, like, I have 2 psychology degrees. So a lot of what I do here is mental too, because a lot of these guys, not even just combat based. A lot of these guys that come into my office, and, like, they just want to talk. They genuinely just want to talk, because it's their first time away from home or things like that. And especially here, being in Hawaii, like, it's not like you can just get in the car and just drive home. Like, this is a plane flight, no matter where you're from. It's a plane flight back home, regardless of where you're from. So they feel real isolated here sometimes. So, like, the mental aspect of a lot of these kids here, it's pretty deep. But yeah, the school aspect of it, yeah, man. I always tell people, like, when I do my classes, that there's a lot of education up there. I know you saw it. I sent you my bio, but there's a lot of stuff up there. But I tell them all that I did with the post 9/11. So, like, I always tell these kids, like, best bang for your buck, man. Like, you do your research before you go to the schools. You can find a school that's not as expensive, and then you can stretch the dollar a little bit further. And you can accomplish all you want to. Not to discredit any of the high quality universities, obviously, because I have some friends that use their post 9/11 to go to Duke and UCLA, things like that. So, like, not to discredit anything, but I'm just put it out there. Just definitely do your research, and before you just start tossing money anywhere. Find out the classes that you're going to take, make sure they're actually what you want. The curriculum is what you want, things like that. And then you can definitely get a lot of bang for your buck, because I end up getting 5 degrees and was like 7 or 8 certification off of that post 9/11. So you can do it. You can do it. Just, you really got to just dig down and do your research, but you can do it. And now, like, I live in Hawaii, where people like to vacation, and, I don't have many complaints.
No, you don't. Hey, and talk about what you're doing. I mean, you're in the physical fitness realm, but that's so cool, because you brought up the fact that you have the 2 psychology degrees, that really, the mental capacity of everything, so super important. And I would say that's probably bigger than anything physical, because you really need to tone your
Right.
mental. You really need to bend that mental capacity to kind of accept where you're at and what you're doing. And especially if you're coming from, your home's far away, and, like you said, an airplane flight, no matter what. And we were in Okinawa, Japan together, so this isn't your first island or anything,
No,
but
no.
you definitely understand the isolation process and how that's really affecting people. I think that's super important. But talk about some of the places you've been and what you're doing in the physical fitness world and how that's working for you, brother.
Yeah, so now I run the health promotion department here on Marine Corps base, um, Hawaii, K-Bay, and I also do it. I run the health promotion department on Camp Smith as well. So there's 2 bases that I take care of. It was kind of tough when I first got here, but now I've got the reins, so we're good to go. But on a whole, what we do is basically just we look at the whole the overall wellness of the Marine. It's not so much as just like the physical part, just like you were talking about, like it's the physical, it's the mental, it's everything in between. We do things that are actually, I started 3 programs here that no Marine Corps installation in the world does them. And I'm pretty proud of that actually. Um, there's 3 installations right now that are trying to mimic the programs that I'm doing, just because like they work. I have a green machine program that we give them a week's worth of classes. Or we give them strength measurement classes, we give them sleep classes, nutrition, performance nutrition, things like that. So we're touching every aspect of the body just to make sure they understand like everything from physical to the mental to stress related things to just everything in between, just to be sure that they understand that it's just not one thing. You know, sometimes you got to go to the gym and punch it out, or sometimes you just got to go to sleep to kind of get rid of the stress that you got going on. Some people think that they can't sleep when you're stressed out, but some people you knock right out when you're stressed. And some, it just depends on the person and things like that. But there's more than one way, to accomplish these things, especially when it comes to like mental health. I work closely with the mental health department here. Sometimes they come out and do talks for me, things like that during my courses. We also do a mission nutrition course that I have on my shirt right now. We have that going on, my food for thought course, which is ongoing nutritional guidance for the Marines here as well. So, like I was saying, from mental to the nutrition to the physical, we try to make sure that we knock all that out to be sure that that they understand that there's more than just the physical part of it. Because the Marine Corps they push pain is weakness leaving the body, and every time they take one of my courses, I always tell them that that's not true, and then they always get mad at me. So like they don't like when
Yeah.
I say that. Like they don't
Yeah,
like that at
because
all. But
you already been there, in the combat scenario, and especially 3-5. I want to say it was Lieutenant Erickson or that would always say that pain is, pain is
yeah,
weakness leaving the
yeah,
body, and only one push up, 1+1 is 1, kind of that math. So you're just doing push-ups
yeah.
and everything till the end of the day. But hey, man, that is awesome that you're doing all these cool things. And you've been doing this for how long now? Because you didn't just end up in Hawaii. You were actually at Camp Pendleton for a long period of time doing some stuff
Mhm.
in North Island, I think, right? Talk
Oh,
talk
I
about
was at
some of the
a
bases you've been to and what you've been doing in those.
Oh yeah. So I worked at 32nd Street for a little bit, and then that was actually my ending duty station. I ended up staying there for like a little bit. Then from there, I went to Okinawa. I was up back in Japan for a while, so I was working just working the front desk there. But about a month into that job, somebody quit, and then I got to run the athletic department there for maybe about a year and a half. So that was pretty good. Then I transitioned from there to Pendleton, where I was running gyms and hit centers and things like that. Then from there, I came here. So it's been almost like a 15-year journey, basically working for MCCS and things like that. But it's like I was telling this kid the other day, when I was like some little stupid kid out here in the world, and I really needed some guidance. It's not like to discredit my parent. I mean, my parents or anything like that. My dad's probably the best guy I've ever met in my life. But you know, when it came to really me actually growing up and like being by myself and like making decisions, like the military was right there for me. So I feel like I needed to give back to some of these kids who feel almost exactly the same way that I did when I was their age, when I was 19, 20, 21, 22. Like it's in that early realm, there's a lot of decisions that need to be made, especially like if you're in the military. And it helps to have like some of these old heads around here to like kind of help you through these things. Because I had some guys to talk to, a few guys, when I was there. I had Chief Buer back way back in the day. I still talk to him today, actually. Good, really good guy. He's probably one of the better chiefs I had, being in military. Good, really good guy. And I still quote him today. There's just a couple of quotes that he uses. I still quote today some of these kids. Just an all around good dude. So like, if you got some of these older guys that are around here, like, now I guess I'm that guy now. I'm one of the older guys now. Talking to these younger kids. So, I try to help them out as much as possible. Cause like I definitely needed it when I was their age. So I try to definitely be there for them, just even outside of like the the capacity of which they get sent to me, because a lot of times they're just sent to me because they're on the body composition program or on the BCP program, or even on the Navy side, they're on the FEP program. So they're, basically they're out of standards. So they have to come see me. So for nutritional guidance and things like that. And then like just to do their their body composition scans. So, while we're doing that, I talk to them just to see what the personal aspect is, because a lot of times, when these guys are out of standards or they're gaining weight, sometimes it has nothing to do with their physical abilities. A lot of times it's just because you're away from home for the first time and like you're just depressed about it. It could be really that simple. It has nothing to do with like, can you actually do a pull up or not? It just has everything to do with the fact that you grew up with your mother, a single mom the whole way, and now you guys are apart for the first time and you can't handle it. It may be that simple, So I try to talk to these guys and point them in the right direction whenever they need help.
Well, it's always amazing. I feel like we always take it upon ourselves to kind of make a better decision to be involved in someone's life, however that might look, even outside of the job op, because hey, somebody's saying it's not my job to do that, but sometimes it's upon us because we have the knowledge, we have the passion to give that feedback back, and that's so awesome that you're doing that. Hey, before we transition to JB, if he's on, but hey, any last final words? And if somebody wants to get a hold of you, if they want to talk to you, how can they do that? Obviously through my show, and that's definitely a possibility. So, and then on top of that, how can they get a hold of you outside of that if you want them to get a hold of you?
Oh, outside, I mean, actually, if anybody's listening to this and they're on, if you have access to Global, I'm really easy to find. I'm probably the only Otis Miller that works in Hawaii, so I'm pretty sure I'm the only Otis Miller here. So I'm easy to find on Global. My first and last name, 31 Yahoo is pretty much my email address if you want to get a hold of me. Yeah, man, last words. I mean, I just want to say, like, I tell people a lot how I end the majority of my stress management classes. I tell people, focus on your health the best you can. I mean, go get your checkups done, get your physicals done. Don't sway away from these things. Because a lot of times, sometimes things are going on with you and you don't even know it. Sometimes you look fine and feel fine, but things are going on. So you might want to just for a peace of mind, just go ahead and take care of your health, because especially as we get older, I know when you're 20, 21 years old, you don't think about these things, but like when you're, as you get older, definitely, keep your health in the back of your head, because, you don't want to catch things a little bit too late. So just make health a priority. Like I say most times, make your health a priority, and, stay up, everybody. I appreciate you having me on, man.
Hey, Otis, thanks a lot for coming on, brother. I know, I don't got JB on deck, but we'll talk real quick about Lima Company, because you wanted we talked this week about possibly getting Lima Company on deck, and so that's a whole bunch of corpsmen coming on here and telling their stories, right? And so you're looking forward to having Lima Company. We're gonna set that up in the future here, and I'm definitely wanting to go with that. So that's pretty cool. Talk about that a little bit. What your idea is on that?
Yeah, I think we should, man. Like, I've met a lot of corpsmen along the way, and we were a pretty tight group. We're pretty tight. Like, even today we still talk. My wedding that you that you actually saw, it was supposed to go another way, and they were going to be my groomsmen. Like, it's just, we're just a tight group of dudes. Like, we always talk, and it's even if you lose track for about like maybe like a short of a year or something, like, you just come back like it never happened. And I couldn't ask for like a better group of friends. Like, they just, you can be vulnerable around them. That's something that, like, a lot of guys, it's hard to do. It's hard to find other guys that you can be, I don't know, vulnerable, sensitive, whatever you want to say, around, and they won't like clown you about it. It's hard to find some friends that are, they can equally do it back. So, I love those dudes, like, for everything. I remember, I can tell you a quick story. I remember I was in Iraq. I was Hector, like, Reyes. We were together, and we're sitting against like this little sand dune thing. And I asked that guy, 'cause I was freaking out that night, because there was a lot going on that night, actually. And I asked him, are we gonna die? And he said, "There's nothing ever gonna happen to you as long as I'm around." And the reality is that, can you really stop something from coming out of the sky and like taking us both out? No, but words help. You know what I mean? words get you through things, whether I know the reality or not, and for him to say something like that and not actually like kind of like just bull crap me with a whole bunch of like random words, that's helpful. But like these are the kind of guys that I have around me, stuff like that. That's why, we're all still tight today.
Yeah, that camaraderie is something that you can't really measure in life, and the fact that it comes with a lot of history that relates to that exact kind of thing, right? When things are at your worst and you're kind of having that downfall, and somebody's right there to pick you up along the way, and that's that mental health that we're talking about, is
Right.
such an important aspect. And I think that goes. And Ray is another great corpsman. He actually has got his doctorate. He's a doctor in
Hmm.
Texas right now, doing a whole bunch of great things. And he's
Yeah.
right there for us too. If we need anything, he's stepping in. There's
Mhm.
such a really cool thing. So I look forward to getting Reyes on here and his story as well, and getting Lima
Yeah.
Company out here to tell their stuff, because that camaraderie is priceless. Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's just a cool thing. And I like the fact that we all like none of us, we all took advantage of everything that we learned. Like nobody slacked off. Derek's doing his thing, you know, I'm doing my thing out here. Bo actually stuck, he did all the way, chiefed it up, you know, he retired, did the whole deal. Like, we kind of knew he'd be the one to stay though. Like we we kind of knew that he'd be the one. And and Ray is like, this dude's a full on doctor now, like I was like, but you know, we gotta do what we gotta do, like, I was like, man, Ray is doing this. I gotta go get my master's degree now. Like, I gotta go, so I gotta go get mine too. Like he goes getting a doctor, and I was like, well, I ain't doing that. So like, like, yeah, all right, buddy, you win. You win.
Yeah,
Yeah, but those are my guys, though. I love those dudes. Those are my guys.
yeah, and he was up in New York for a while doing some stuff, and you guys, some of the guys went up there and helped him out to get down to Texas and
Yeah.
stuff and saw him off. Hey, that's what's really cool, because a lot of people, a lot of veterans might be out there thinking that they want to be alone, thinking they want to do their thing,
Mhm.
but after a while, those thoughts start clouding your mind, and you start having your own thoughts starting to reflect back and forth to yourself, and you have no kind of reverberation from that. And when you
Right.
have your fellow, when you reach back out into the veteran community and you get involved in that, I think that just increases your pathway to a better place. And I think so
Mhm.
often that's a missed understood thing, that I think we all need each other, because we never did it alone. We didn't go to combat
Right.
alone. We didn't do any, you know, at one point they said, hey, you might be the only corpsman out there with your Marines.
Mhm.
And I used to not believe in that until that actually happens in combat.
Right.
But
Right.
when that happens, you just gotta, live up to the moment. This is the history that
Mhm.
you heard about, but that doesn't mean when you go back home you fall apart. It means you still stay together and move forward in these positive directions. And I think that's really awesome that we were able to do that together too.
Yeah, it's a good thing to carry forward. Like, I don't know, most people, a lot of people don't know that. I have poetic material. I write poems and things like that. I wrote a few of them about us, just as corpsmen hanging out and things like that. Some things are from memory, things being out in Iraq and things like that. But um, yeah, man, we've always been like the guardrails for each other. And I was talking to Derek not too long ago, and he he said, like, he told me back then I was the more mature one of everybody, because but like at the time I was the only one that was married and had it, and I was the only one, and none of them were, so they can be as reckless as they wanted to be. So like I couldn't necessarily do it. So he was like, yeah, you were the more responsible one at the time. I was like, yeah, at the time, but I mean, that was by default. Like, you know, because I wanted to be out there too. I wanted to do my thing, but like when we went on deployment, it's not like we didn't have any fun and things like that. But like, I had to be a little bit more grounded. But then, as we get older, like, everybody's, all, Derek and Hector, they become super responsible fathers, and you can't hope for better for your friends. I like the way that our lives have turned out. When we were kids, like, you think that, like, all these young dudes out here doing all this dumb stuff, and like, how do we grow up and become what we've become? But it's with the help of each other and the support of each other and things like that. Like, I always know from back then to right now that if I got something to talk about, any one of them, any one of those three, I can just reach out real easily, and like, they'll get back to me with quickness, and vice versa. Same thing. If you really need somebody, it's nice to know in the back of your head that you got these particular people that, like, you can always rely on. Of course, when it comes to like things that you probably can't talk about, when it comes to like your family or like your spouse or things like that, people who actually understand and been there, or better yet, was right there next to you when it happened. So a lot of these things it's because I understand what you're talking about when it comes to vets like to be alone, but like, I have a couple of buddies that like to just kind of be a hermit and stay in their house, but like, I try to check on them as much as I can. Just be like, dude, you gotta talk to people, man. You gotta get out and talk, man. And just being alone by yourself, it does something to your mental. Like, if you think you want to be alone, that's kind of a mental issue, so to speak, that you want to be so enclosed and closed off to the world. Like, that's kind of a mental problem right there. So, and if like I'm trying to talk to you and then you're trying to fight me off, issues, but like, it's not going to stop me, because I've been there too, where I was in the hole, and if it wasn't for some friends helping me out the hole, then I wouldn't be here now. So like, it's sometimes persistence is key. You got to keep helping out and keep showing up for people.
Definitely, Otis. Hey, and stay on just till the end. We'll come back on. We'll talk after the show.
Yeah, sure.
It's so important. All these things that you're saying. This is, you've known me for a long time. You get to see all my stuff.
Yeah.
I do 3 warrior groups a week for the combat vets through the PTSD Foundation of America. If there's somebody that needs to get on there, they can. And some of you guys have gotten on there. And then after this show, I have the 1400 time frame where I just kind of have a open house. And that's for anybody that wants to get on and see. And the open house is really designed for anybody that wants to come in here and just talk, chat, and do whatever.
Right.
And you got on last week. That's why we had a really good time talking about it. And I was like, hey, I'm going to get you on next week, if that's cool, Otis. And so, these things are super important to me. I do a lot with Warrior Built, and I get to hang out with Warrior Built 232, which is stands for WB, the 23rd letter and the 2. And so that actually refers to our 232 troops, refers to all of our sponsor, supporters, volunteers that do all that stuff. So you talk about all those things. And you talked about family too, man. And family is such a huge, important impact to lives of our families and stuff like that. But this has just been an outstanding time with you. Hey, we got about 2 minutes left. If you got any last things to say, feel free to put it out there, brother.
Yeah. Again, like I just say, like, to everybody, just make your health a priority. Please don't like disregard anything you see. I see this all the time where, things just go by the wayside and then they turn into big problems. So as a health professional, I just like to say, make your health a priority, especially as we're getting older. Please take care of yourself. And to all the vets out there, there's so many opportunities for us out there, for mental, for physical, for nutritional habits, for everything. If you're in the Hawaii area, come see me. We can definitely, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, if you're in the Hawaii area, come see me. If you're distanced, then man, hit up Chief, man. Chief has all the hookups, all the plugs. Chief's got all the plugs.
Hey, and I'm working on it, man. And it's so cool because a lot of times I'll put the word out, and if some of you guys have the answers, it really steers these guys in the right direction. It's something you mentioned. I just want to say it again. You mentioned the health is so important, and we only have so much time in our life to correct that. At a certain age, you just can't correct it. So that's why it's really important to check out your lab works and get your stuff, checked out, and start, making those adjustments in your lives now, because as we get older, those adjustments, you don't have a chance to adjust. You just end up, in the ground, and we want to keep you from there.
Exactly,
so,
man.
And that's the other thing, the mental health piece, stay out of the ground as well. Come see us and let's do some stuff. Hey, so until next time, hey, this is Combat Vet Vision. This is a chance for us to talk and really have these cool discussions, open communication, and be able to tell a good story. I'm thankful for Otis. I'm thankful for all my friends. I just had Derek Hudnall, another good buddy we were just talking about last week. So check out my podcasts wherever you watch your podcasts. And thanks to Brian Colburn in the background, pushing the buttons for sitchradio.com. Until next time, strength and honor out.
The only way, and we need nothing more. The only way, together forever, that's for sure.